How's it going, everyone? In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this very simple DIY kids foldable desk. Due to COVID, many counties have determined that most schools will be virtual learning for the remainder of 2020. So I wanted to build a desk for my boys so that they can have their own space, but also be foldable so they could put it away when they're not using them. We have a fairly small place, so we typically put the desks away during weekends so the boys have room to play. I started by breaking down the plywood. I used Baltic Birch plywood since I was going to leave the edges exposed, but you can easily use any type of plywood. The desk will be 16 by 30 with a height of about 17 inches. I used plywood for all the pieces, including the legs, but you can easily use 1x2s for the legs if you choose to. Here are all the wood pieces cut and the hardware you'll need. I cut some miters on the cross members, but this step is completely unnecessary. This was just me experimenting with the look and design of the desk. The cross members will go underneath the legs, as you'll see in a minute. I'm just dry fitting and looking at the placement before putting it together. Next, I begin attaching all the brackets to the legs. I started using an awl until I remembered I had a self-centering drill bit. It was still a bit of a process since it wasn't the right size, so I had to go back and finish the pilot hole with a bigger drill bit. Now don't be a dummy like me and try to drive 32 screws by hand. I was being overly cautious, but luckily my patience ran out after 2 screws. I pulled out my driver, which sped up the process, and once I found my groove, it was pretty easy putting it together. So now I begin attaching the cross members. I used a speed square and some medium Starbond CA glue. I measured about 6.5 inches from the edge of the leg to allow for enough clearance when you're closing the legs. You'll see what I mean in a minute. I used the speed square and CA glue to attach the other leg. Then I drove some brad nails just to give it a little bit more strength. Here I'm using a combination square to measure about 3/4 from the edge. You'll notice it's not perfectly centered, and that's what you want. Again, you want to make sure you have enough clearance for the opposite legs. And once you have 2 screws locked in, you can begin drilling for the rest of the screws and begin seeing this thing come together. And here it is. Let's test this thing out. Notice the clearance between the end of the legs and the opposite cross member. Now if you're smart, which I'm not, you would completely sand and finish all the pieces before putting it together. I removed all the hardware and began sanding till it was smooth. Also, make sure you check out the description. I'm going to put a link to the folding brackets I used. As for the finish, I used Odie's oil. Now, if I had to do it all over again, which I did since I made a few of these desks, I would use a couple coats of polyurethane. It'll give it that extra protection from crayons or pens or whatever your kids throw at it. Since I started these with Odie's, I just finished them off with Odie's. Also, make sure you sand it nice and smooth. I got a little lazy and I paid for it with a nasty splinter. Anyways, here it is complete. Like I said, I wanted the boys to be able to put it together and take it apart easily. Over time, the brackets will wear down and it will make it easier for them to fold the legs. And when school's out and they're not using the desk, mainly on weekends, they could take it down and tuck it under their bed. So there it is, guys. I hope you enjoyed this build. If you did, please consider subscribing. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Also, click the notification bell so you're alerted when I put out new videos. And with that, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and I'll catch you on the next one.